Hi, DJ Chuang here, and I wanted to make a few remarks about what it means to be Asian American and why it's a good thing for us to identify and to come together as Asian Americans in 2021 amidst of a American society that has demonstrably shown an increase in anti-Asian hate crimes. And I want to intersperse my remarks with a message that my pastor friend from seminary days 25 plus years ago, Doug Liu, delivered this message in Houston. And I'll add a link in the description so you can watch it in its entirety and context. But here's what he had to say.
Here's my weaknesses with the Asian American understanding of it. And I've seen this in my life, and other people have critiqued it. If you actually look at the definition of Asian, it includes all Asian countries, right? Not only the ones that we're familiar with, but Southeastern Asians. And those are the Asians that are neglected. Those are the least. Like I remember, and this is kind of why I was a little bit bothered by this whole Asian hate thing, to be honest.
Yes, Asian American spans a huge spectrum of Asian countries, nationalities, ethnicities, languages, many, many differences that get obscured and lumped all together under this one term that most Asians actually don't identify with. It's a geographical term more so than a a category that's helpful in some sense. But yet, in this American context, the distinct Asian ethnicities, I'm Chinese American myself, we get all mistreated unjustly by the wider American society that can't tell us apart because of lack of exposure, lack of visibility, and collective voice. And that's why there's a value to bringing Asian Americans together, and especially to stand up and to make a voice of protest against the hate crimes. And that's how American politics and government works to protect all its people, that each group of people under the entire population does need to make its presence known. Let's continue with Doug.
Is because Asians have been facing persecution or harassment or bullying constantly. But you just don't hear about those type of Asians. And this isn't only my critique, but also other East Asians, like the Miens, the Homongs, the Cambodians. They've also have voiced these type of complaints. When I was in Oakland,
Well, here's the thing. So these things have been going on for years, even decades, and in the past, there actually has been government, federal laws against specific Asian groups, whether it's the Chinese, anti-Chinese laws, anti-Japanese laws with World War II, internment camps, and those are laws. And then these are individual hate crimes that have increased and become more visible. Not that they didn't happen before, but now they're being known because there's people actually reporting and making it known. And it needs to be made known in order for people to recognize and become aware and to be protected by policies in our society.
used to go to East Oakland and minister to the Miens, and they were a hill people of Laos. Every day they lived in fear of being held up, of being harassed.
Okay, I'm going to skip ahead here and come to the segment where Doug continues describing how unhelpful it is to categorize and label.
So my complaint is this, is it seems like the Asian American as a group, it's too broad. I mean, there's so many different Asian culture. I mean, just like the Chinese culture, right? You have Mandarins, you have Cantonese, you have Toisan. I mean, so many different cultures. How great of a label is Chinese? Well, think about how broad.
Well, yeah, it's not a great label, but because of the commonalities, and Asian Americans currently consist of 22 million plus Americans and about 7% of the population and fastest growing. Uh, by coming together, we are becoming more visible and having a voice at the table and beginning to change policy. And one of the best developments that's happened in the midst of this terrible season of anti-Asian hate crime is the formation of the Asian American Foundation. That Asian Americans with resource and with vision have come together to form this foundation and pull together over $1 billion. That's B with a boy. And now there's resources to help us as an Asian American community with all its diversities, with the imperfection of the label, to incubate, to convene, and to resource the things that need to be done to help us live a safe existence so that we can be a part of the liberty and the pursuit of justice